We just ask everyone online to please mute your phones until it's time for you to speak.
Recording in progress.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the Joint Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners meeting of April the 6th, 2022. I am Briggs Simmons, the Planning and Zoning Chair. Prior to this meeting, invitations were sent to board members, commissioners, staff, and interested parties and applicants to participate in this meeting. All participants should be on mute and only unmute your system when you have to speak. Then mute your system back in order to minimize our background noise. I will now turn the meeting over to Vice Chairman, District 2 Commissioner Kelly Robinson, who will introduce and confirm the presence of the commissioners. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Greetings, everyone. My name is Kelly Robinson. I'll do roll call. I'm sitting in proxy for this particular meeting of the Joint Board of Commissioners Planning and Zoning of April 5th, 2022. I'll do roll call right now. I'll go down the line. Commissioner of the 1st District, Henry Mitchell III, are you present, sir?
Yes, sir. Present.
Okay. Kelly Robinson, Commissioner of District 2, is present. Commissioner Trina Carson, the 3rd District, are you present?
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Ann Jones Guider of the 4th District, are you present?
Present.
All right, we have we have a quorum and a present. Chairman Simmons, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. Also present, we have members of Planning and Zoning Board. If you would please confirm your attendance when I call your name. Our Vice Chair, Mr. Rob Thomas.
Present.
Teresa Knowles.
Present.
Oric Curry. Mr. Curry. Brandon Penniman.
Present.
Mr. Frank Payne.
Present.
And Kirk Nicholson has been excused for the night. If Mr. Curry joins us, we'll check with him later. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a quorum with Planning and Zoning Board. Ron Roberts, our Planning and Zoning Manager, will now introduce the county staff, the Planning and Zoning staff present in the meeting. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Chairman. We have County Attorney Michael Coleman. We have the County Administrator Frederick Perry. We have the Development Service Director and Planning James Worthington. Transportation Director Miguel Valentin. Our Zoning Administrator Phil Schaefer. Senior Planner Allison Duncan. And Clerk of the Planning and Zoning Board Johanna Womack. Present, sir, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. There's a reversionary clause that applies to each rezoning, and that is the applicant, the agent, or the property owner has 24 months to vest the zoning change after the Board of Commissioners grants an approval. As far as tonight's procedures go, I will conduct the public hearings. Mr. Roberts will announce the application, followed by Planning and Zoning staff, who will present each application in full. Then either the applicant or the applicant's representative will have 15 minutes to present their request. Members of the public in favor of the application will be able to present their information. They will have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes to speak on behalf. Members of the public in opposition to an application will be able to present their information. They also will have 3 minutes per person for a total of 30 minutes to speak in opposition to the application. After the opposition completes their input, or the 30 minutes has elapsed, the public hearing will be officially closed. At this point, the staff will clarify any points of the zoning case. If the staff is unable to satisfy the board's questions, the board will then ask the applicant for points of clarification. And remember, this is not a time for the applicant to re-present their case. Planning and Zoning Board will then entertain a motion. Following that, the Planning and Zoning Board will turn the motion over to the Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. Our first agenda item tonight will be the approval of the minutes of the March 1st, 2022 regular Joint Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting. Planning and Zoning Board, after reviewing the minutes, does any Planning and Zoning Board member have any comments, changes, or questions concerning these minutes? Hearing none, Planning and Zoning Board, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 1st, 2022 Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting?
Chairman Briggs, Rob Thomas, like to make a motion to accept the minutes, approve the minutes from the March 1st, 2022 zoning meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Do I have a second?
This is Ord Curry, I second.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Curry. Welcome. I have a motion. I have a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, I will call the question. All in favor, please express when I call your name. Mr. Thomas,
Yay.
Ms. Knowles,
Yay.
Mr. Penniman, Mr. Penniman, Mr. Curry,
Yay.
Mr. Payne,
Yay.
and Mr. Nicholson is excused tonight. We have a majority. Mr. Robinson, I will turn it over to the Board of Commissioners with a recommendation to approve the minutes of March 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard the recommendation of the approval of the meeting minutes of March 1st, 2022 of the Joint Board of Commissioners and Planning and Zoning meeting. Can I get a motion to adopt those meeting minutes into the official record?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, Board of Commissioners, I'll call the question to adopt the meeting minutes. Commissioner of the First District, Henry Mitchell, how will you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner of the Second District, Kelly Robinson, I vote yes. Commissioner Attorney Carson, the Third District, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Ann Jones Goddard, Fourth District, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, we have a full 4-0 unanimous vote. The meeting minutes are adopted as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board. Chairman Simmons, I yield back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Robinson. Mr. Roberts, would you introduce our first agenda item, please?
Yes, I will. It's S 2022-18. The applicant is Mark Johnstone Hopper at 3419 McCown Road in land lot 727, 726, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 3. The request, Chairman, is for a special use permit for a home business, maker business, to conduct a blacksmith operation on this property. The size of the property is 1.91 acres. The zoning district is RLD. The staff recommendation is approval with conditions. This is
Thank you
Phil
very
Schaefer.
much, Mr. Roberts. I believe Phil Schaefer is the staff on this. If you would, Mr. Schaefer, present the findings.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The property is located on the south side of McCown Road. The site's developed with a single-family residence with an entry driveway and an existing storage structure. As far as planning comments, there's no general planning concerns raised by this home-based maker business being granted permission. The proposed operational structures within the rear yard. The applicant owns the adjoining property that would be affected by the request. The business operation of training students would require additional formal restroom facilities for the students or observing guests, as has been required for other special uses that provide for the public or multiple guests at a given time. And this applicant was granted a variance to reduce the rear yard setback for the accessory workshop structure on March 21st under variance 2022-04. This is the zoning map. The property is up here. It's the small property at the end of the arrow. The applicant also owns the gray area here. The gray just simply represents the fact that this is in the city of Douglasville and is under the city of Douglasville zoning, but it is under the same ownership as Mr. Hopper owns the property with the house on it. When you look at it, you can see a little aerial, a little clearer, that this is property that was annexed into the city in a process of annexing along the interstate to the east of the city some years back. Here again is the survey of the property originally, and up here at the upper left is where the house and the storage structure would be. This is an enlarged version of that site plan showing the variance that was requested and approved. The property will be used for a blacksmithing operation under our new home business maker micro business category. The applicant wishes to conduct his original blacksmithing manufacturing processes and on-site. However, I wanted to show you some pictures of their existing facilities, which are in Atlanta, and this is what he would like to move eventually out to the property. So they do their own manufacturing, their own blacksmithing production, as well as teach folks how to blacksmith, as well as conduct classes and demonstrations on the current site. This is some pictures of some of the students and some of the equipment that are used. I wanted to show you this picture because this is a workshop for the blacksmithing operation. They would like to bring simply the blacksmithing operation currently, and then eventually, as they get their act back together in the move, begin to bring in additional students or demonstrations. And so when we took a look at this, we realized that this is two kind of sequential requests, and we can set the conditions up to accommodate those requests. The property fronts McCowan Road, is the existing driveway. The property that is to the city is here on the right and doesn't have explicit driveway access from McCowan yet. It's not improved in any way. And this is a look from the east back to the west with the driveway here in the left. There is an existing utility easement corridor running up the side of the property, which creates another very extensive buffer between the property and any of the neighbors. Staff reviewed the proposal against the criteria for special use permit and finds that it is supported by all the criteria. We recommend approval with the finding that the use will not modify the land use plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code, and that the granting of the special use permit will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. I would like to request 5 conditions. First, the special use shall be for a blacksmithing home-based maker business with ancillary professional smithing training functions and ancillary informal demonstration or educational programs, and that any other use of the property not identified within Section 210, uses allowed in each zoning district, specifically tables 2.2, principal uses allowed by right, and 2.3, accessory uses allowed by right of the Douglas County Unified Development Code, may require the submission, review, and approval of a new special use permit. Number 2, the operational hours for the maker business and ancillary training programs or demonstrations shall be 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. weekdays, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays, and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sundays. And 3, the applicant shall obtain appropriate building permits and business license to install the structure and operate the business. Number 4, the applicant shall proceed to permit a health department approved restroom facilities for guests and students prior to implementing those ancillary training or demonstration programs. And number 5, the applicant shall install a handicapped paved parking stall and sidewalk area to connect the new facility and training areas with the parking stall prior to initiating training or demonstration programs. And then we added in the directive to staff to conduct an administrative inspection at the anniversary of this to verify that all the conditions have been met. And with that, I will yield back to you, Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Hopper, are you present in the meeting?
Yes, I am.
Okay, would you like to present anything for the Board of Commissioners and Planning and Zoning Board to hear before we proceed?
I believe Mr. Schaefer has done a very nice job of presenting what we want to do and kind of the slow progression into it. Again, you know, for us, this is a case of moving away from the madness of the city and slowing life down a little bit, and to be able to live and have a workshop at home is kind of a dream for us. So this would be an absolutely fantastic opportunity for us to do that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hopper. If you would just stand by for a few minutes, I will open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, make any comments you would like. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, go ahead. Is that someone wishing to speak? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, then I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, make any comments you would like. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please go ahead. Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public hearing on this matter. One thing I need to ask Mr. Hopper, you heard the conditions that were read into the record. Are you in agreement with those conditions?
Absolutely. I think those conditions are very amenable, and there is nothing more than I would want to do than to be compliant to those.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of Mr. Hopper or of staff?
Mr. Chairman, it's Rob Thomas.
Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Harper, you said you have other facilities throughout Atlanta area. How many other facilities do you have?
So we are actually just shutting down our workshop on Howell Mill. The property that we're presently at is being redeveloped. So we're actually in full process of relocating and packing up our workshop. So that has kind of come to an end. But it kind of, our timeline got a little bit compressed because they suddenly pulled the trigger on redeveloping the property.
Okay. So how many have you? So you had one before the?
Yes, that's
active?
correct.
Okay. How long was that active?
We've been here for 10 years.
I'm on.
Okay. Okay. I saw the pictures. So this new structure, what's the structure gonna be made out of?
And
What type of materials will the structure
I'm
be
looking
made?
at a metal building.
on my system shut down, and I've been sitting here panicking trying to back up.
Can you guys
Howard,
mute
would you
yourself?
mute your system, please?
Hello?
Second, let me
Mr.
get-
Fowler.
Yeah,
would
Mr.
you-
Harvard.
Yeah, I
Go
was
ahead.
saying it's going to be a metal building.
Pardon me?
Oh, metal building. And what
Yeah.
size? What's square
30
footage?
by 40.
About 40. What type? I see you had it for 10 years. So what type of safety precautions and who regulates this, what you do?
That's a good question. So we would have fire safety and make sure that we're up to code on all of that. But by that, the regulatory board for blacksmithing is really our guild, which is the the Artist Blacksmiths Association of North America.
So that's something that they come out regularly to inspect, or how does that work?
No, it's really, they have standards that is expected of us, and that's what we stick to.
Okay, so the fire marshal obviously has to come out to do an inspection initially to give
Absolutely.
you a CO letter, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're just kind of on your own as far as
Yes.
any kind of keeping things up
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
and over code. Now, what about your fire suppression? Is that kind of fire suppression system in there, or what do you use for that?
Yeah, I will want to put in a fire suppression as required by the fire marshal
Okay.
to make sure that we're actually completely compliant with that.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's the only question I have.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, Mr. Harper, this is Frank Payne. I just wanted to ask you, have you had a chance to talk to any of your neighbors in the area And secondly, is there going to be any type of noise control? Because I know that you will be doing, applying beating on some of your products.
Yes, I've spoken with my neighbors on either side, and they seem to be happy with it. Also, I really want to make sure that they are happy. That's one of the biggest things for me, is to have a simple and quiet life, albeit that I'm a blacksmith. So making sure that we have sound buffers of trees, and also working out how to insulate the building in a manner that does dampen the sound as best as possible.
Okay.
Any other questions, planning and zoning? Hearing no questions, I will now throw it over to Vice Chair Kelly Robinson for questions from the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Fellow Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for the applicant? Take silence as being none. Chairman Simmons, we have no questions from the Board of Commissioners at this time for the applicant. I yield the floor back to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the presentations, you've heard the answers to the questions. Do I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, this is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve application S 2022-18, a request for a special use permit for an in-home maker micro business as presented by staff and the conditions related.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Teresa Knowles, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing no discussion, I will call the question. All in favor, please respond with a yay. Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Knowles.
Yay.
Mr. Penniman.
Yay.
Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Thank you very much. Chairman votes yay. We'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners with a full recommendation for approval of application S 2022-18. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do I have a recommendation or a motion for S-2022-18 with conditions for approval or denial?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion to approve by Commissioner Henry Mitchell.
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner Angelos Guider. Any questions? If no questions, I'll call the questions. Commissioner Mitchell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kelly Robinson, the second district, votes yes. Mr. Carthen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Angelos Guider, how do you vote?
Yes.
We have a 4-0 unanimous vote as S 2022-18 with conditions as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Chairman Simmons, I yield back to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hopper, we wish you the best going forward with this venture.
Thank you very much. It's much appreciated. And thank you, Mr. Schaefer, for helping us through this process.
All right, Mr. Roberts, would you introduce our next agenda item, please?
I will, Chairman. It's S 2022-19, Brittany Love. The owner is Ophelia Love at 3441 Boyd Street, Lithia Springs, 30122, land lot 318, District 18, Section 2, and parcels 20. The request is for a special use permit for a home business maker business to conduct a bakery kitchen operation on 0.49 acres. The zoning district is RLD. The staff recommendation is approval with conditions. This is also Phil Schaefer's case.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schaefer, would you present the staff findings and recommendations for us, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So here we have another example of a home-based business. The property is located on the north side of Boyd Road. The site is developed with a single-family residence driveway, which is a little oversized and has some extra parking spaces and open yard area. Again, no significant planning concerns are raised by the home-based maker business being permitted. The structure will be within the side yard, and we've asked the applicant to install some fencing so that the neighbors will be screened off from the actual area where people park or where the actual building will be. In addition, the operation itself will be submitting for permission from the Department of Agriculture for approval to establish the kitchen, along with a Douglas County occupational tax license. And as I mentioned, we are asking privacy fencing to be installed. Here is the zoning map showing that the property is currently zoned residential low density. It does bump up against light industrial that fronts Highway 78 currently, and it is surrounded by residential, developed residential property. Immediately to the west is property also owned by the current owner of this property, and it has a couple of storage structures on it, which is why the principal residence, though not on the same property as those original storage buildings, could not allow the storage buildings to be used for the kitchen. We have to ask her to install a new structure specifically on the property with the home, so that the home would be the principal use, and then the kitchen would be the secondary accessory use. Here is a overhead of an overview of the property itself, and then here is how they've presented a 12 by 30 additional structure on the side of the building, which is of course why we're asking that, once I show you the site photos, why we're asking for a fence to be installed along the property line to screen off the use. This is a picture of the two properties together looking back westerly along Boyd Road at the existing house on the property itself. You can see there's an additional excess parking area, and the additional structure would be installed along the side of the house. And we've just asked that a fence be put up to screen off the residents to the east of their property, and that way we can confine the use and the activity and not intrude into the neighbors. We reviewed this request against the criteria and find that the special use permit criteria are all supportive of the request. Staff is recommending approval of special use permit 2022-19 with findings that the use will not modify the land use plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code, and that the granting of the special use will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. As before, we are recommending some conditions. They're a little different than the previous applicant because it's a slightly different use. Again, the first condition is that the special use will be for a home-based bakery business as defined and regulated by the Georgia Department of Agriculture and Section 334 of the Unified Development Code, with ancillary informal demonstration or educational programs also permitted, but any other use of the property not identified within Section 210, uses allowed in each zone district, specifically Table 2.2, principal uses allowed by right, and 2.3, accessory uses allowed by right of the Douglas County Unified Development Code, may require the submission, review, and approval of a new special use permit. Number 2, the operational hours for the maker micro business and ancillary programs or demonstrations shall be from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on a Friday and Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. That number 3, the applicant shall obtain appropriate building permits and business licenses to install the structure and operate the business. Number 4, applicant shall obtain appropriate public sewer connection approval from the Douglas County, Douglasville, Douglas County Water Sewer Authority. Number 5, applicant shall erect a 6-foot privacy fence along easterly common property line to screen the new structure and operational activity from the neighboring residents. And number 6, the special use permit for a cottage industry maker micro business use are non-transferable and issued to a specific applicant for a specific cottage industry maker micro business on a specific parcel. And I have added in a picture here for the recommended special use condition to show approximate length of 55 feet for the privacy fencing to be installed along the property line as best as possible to screen off the actual installation and activity areas from the neighbor and still retain enough coverage for the yard to be open, for the backyard to be open for playground area for children, etc. And then directive to staff, to go out at the annual anniversary of this hearing and conduct an on-site inspection to verify that all the conditions are being met properly, and if not, to schedule a hearing for them. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. Ms. Love, applicant, are you present in the meeting?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to make any comments or statements for the Board of Commissioners and the Planning and Zoning Board? You would have 15 minutes if you would like.
No, sir. I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Phil Schaefer for the presentation. He did a very thorough, accurate job. So that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. If you would just stand by for a few minutes in case there are any additional questions. I'm going to open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Hearing or seeing none, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please go ahead. Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the presentation. Do you have any questions of Mr. Schaefer or the applicant? Hearing none or seeing none? Yes.
Hey, Mr. Chairman Simmons, Rob Thomas. Just want to know, what are your hours of operation going to be? And I know what the recommendations are, but just what are you looking to do?
So I am still finalizing what my hours of operation will be, but they will definitely be within the recommendations that Mr. Schaefer suggested.
Okay, and you won't be actually selling these products from your home, correct?
No.
Okay, well, thank you.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Commissioner Robinson, Mr. Vice Chair, I will turn it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions that y'all might have.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Fellow Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicants or staff regarding S 2022-19? I take silence as none. Chairman Simmons, we have no questions from the Board of Commissioners. We yield back the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, may I have a motion, please?
Chairman Simmons, Rob Thomas, I'd like to make a motion to approve application S 2022-19, a request for a special permit for in-home maker micro business as presented by staff.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, I second.
Thank you very much. I have a motion and I have a second. Before we go any further, Ms. Love, you heard the conditions that were read in by Mr. Schaefer. Are you in agreement with those conditions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I just needed that for the record. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have a motion and a second? Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote on this motion to approve S 2022-19. Please vote in the affirmative to approve, the negative to disagree. Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Knowles.
Yay.
Mr. Penniman. And Mr. Penniman.
Approve.
Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Thank you very much. The chairman votes yay. We will turn this over to Mr. Robinson and the Board of Commissioners with an approval for S 2022-19. Commissioner?
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. And Board of Commissioners, I'd like to make the motion to approve S 2022-19 with the conditions as recommended, as approved by the Planning and Zoning Board. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any further questions, comments? Not, I call the questions to approve or deny this motion. Commissioner Henry Mitchell, first district, Henry Mitchell III from the 1st District, how do you vote, sir?
Approved.
Kelly Robinson from the 2nd District, I approve. Commissioner Carson from the 3rd District, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Angelos Guider from the 4th District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, we have a 4-0 unanimous vote. Motion passes. The vote passes for S 2022-19. Chairman Simmons, we yield back.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lowe. We wish you the best
Thank you.
with this new endeavor.
Thank you so much, and I'll be sure to get you guys some bakery goodies.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Roberts, would you introduce our next agenda item, please?
I will, and this is great. Z 2022-20, Teresa and David Willis at 4242 Anawiki Road, within land lot 318, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 75. The current zoning is a PUD, Planned Unit Development. The acreage is 12 acres, and the staff recommendation is for approval, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I believe this is Mr. Schaefer's case. Mr.
It is.
Schaefer, would you present staff findings and recommendations, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So the site is on the south side of Anawaki. There's a driveway directly onto Anawaki. The property is developed with a single-family residence, and it's also partially wooded. Again, planning concerns, there were no planning concerns raised by the rezoning request. The applicant is proposing to create a lot split to provide an additional building site for a family member. The property will be developed according to the RLD standards, and we will require a lot split plat to be filed. Originally, this tract was 3 parcels, and then in August of 2019, I recorded at Book 40, page 244, a lot combination plat that put the 3 pieces back together as one. Here is the zoning of the property. This is a picture to show you that the surrounding properties are residential low density, east and west and south. This is a remnant of what was originally part of a subdivision on the north side of Anawaki, and it was just never developed over the time. I think that the owners or the developers lived on these properties when the stuff on the north side of Anawaki was actually being rezoned and rebuilt, and they had some idea they might eventually wish to do something here. The owners, Mr. and Mrs. Wills, would prefer not to be subject to the planned unit development, which may require something to be done when they are developing the property, or how it might be used in terms of what might hang over their heads. They would prefer to take it completely out of this PUD and simply restore the residential low density category, so they can be completely aware of what development standards will apply, and they're not subject in any way to any PUD requirements that might come from possible homeowners association or possible rules, along with the possible rules in the PUD about how the land gets developed, because there were some requirements in that PUD to the north when it was subdivided. There are rules on the final plats as to what can be done. There is nothing like that on the south side of Anawaki. However, just to clean it up and allow them to do exactly what they want and know exactly what they'll be responsible for, staff is recommending this to be approved. I just wanted to show you the aerial map here in red. I think you can still see that the GIS system does still show the 3 parcels. However, this on the right is the lot combination plat recorded in 2019 that combined all the parcels. At some point, they would like to take this into a lot split, as I said before, and create a lot for a family member. This is a picture of the driveway in on the left here. And this is Anawake. We're looking westerly along Anawake. The DOT has requested that the access to any new lot that might get created would be from the driveway and not from directly onto Anawake, as that would be a safety issue. We're too close to several driveways to allow for direct access onto Anawake itself from a lot that might be created up here at the front. And then this is looking back easterly along Anawake at the driveway entrance, just to show you both sides. As we reviewed the criteria for rezoning, they are all confirming the requested use is supported. Staff is recommending approval of the rezoning from PUD to RLD with the following findings: that the rezoning will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. B, the proposed zoning is consistent with the comprehensive future land use plan. Categorization of this property is within the suburban living area, incorporating mixed residential uses. C, the uses permissible in the proposed zoning district are specifically compatible with surrounding properties. And D, the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. And that's all. We're not recommending any conditions, just findings. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman, for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. Will the applicant, Mr. and Ms. Wills, I see you're on the line here. Would you like to make any presentations for the Board of Commissioners of the Planning and Zoning Board to hear before we bring up a motion?
Yes, I would just like to thank Mr. Schaefer for his extraordinary due diligence in the work and just helping us get everything planned out for our family.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wills. If y'all would just stand by for a moment. Planning and Zoning Board well, no, at this point in time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address. State your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead.
My name is Warren W. Hughes. I'm 4196 Anawake Road. I'm the adjoining 12.5 acres to the left of them or the east of them. And they're good people, and I have no problem with their plans. It won't affect my property.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Hughes. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system. You would have 3 minutes. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing for those in favor of this application and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Hearing none, seeing no one wishing to speak, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of Mr. and Ms. Wills or of Mr. Schaefer? Hearing none, Vice Chairman Robinson, I will throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions that y'all may have.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this applicant or staff regarding this particular matter before the joint meeting of the Board of Commissioners and Planning and Zoning? I take silence as well as me being home rule. Have no further questions. Chairman Simmons, we yield back the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Board of Commissioners. Mr. Robinson, Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the presentations, the questions, and the answers. Do I have a motion, please?
This is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve application Z 2022-20, a request for rezoning for PUD to residential low density as presented by staff with the findings as outlined.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
That's Rob Thomas. I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do I have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I will call the question. All in favor, please answer in the affirmative. Mr. Thomas,
Yay.
Ms. Knowles,
Yay.
Mr. Penniman,
Yay.
Mr. Curry,
Yay.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Thank you very much, Chairman Yeh. We have an approval of Mr. Robinson. I'll throw it to the Board of Commissioners with a recommendation to approve application Z 2022-20.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, based on the recommendation to approve application Z 2022-20, I make the motion to approve this matter. Can I get a second?
Second.
I do have a second. Any further discussion? I call the question for those who are in approval list. Commissioner Henry Mitchell, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson for Commissioner District 2, I vote yes. Commissioner Kirkland, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Ann Jones Dowder, 4th District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, we have a 4-0 unanimous vote. Motion passed. The Board of Commissioners, Chairman Simmons, we yield back to you.
Thank you very much. Mr. and Ms. Wills, we wish you the best in this going forward.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Roberts, you're welcome. Mr. Roberts, would you introduce the next item for us, please?
Yes, I will. It's S 2022-21, Elizabeth Watson at 3223 Bomar, Douglasville, 30135, land lot 86, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 75. Current zoning is RA. The request is for a special use permit, Chairman, on 2.47 acres as a dog treat bakery as an in-home business. Staff's recommendation is for approval, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I believe this is Ms. Duncan's case. Ms. Duncan,
Yes, it
would
is.
you provide the staff findings and recommendations for us?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have in front of you here is the existing zoning map showing the current zoning, and Mr. Roberts had said. Here is an aerial view of the property. Here is the street view of the property, and the view of the property across the street from the subject property. Here's the view looking southwest on Bomar Road, and here is the view looking northeast on Bomar Road. Staff did analyze the request against the criteria for the special use permit. We did find that the criteria substantially supports the request. Again, this is a special use permit request for an in-home maker micro business. The specific trade will be manufacturing dog treats. These will be sold either online or through various farmers markets or other off-site venues. The applicant will not have individuals coming to the property to purchase their goods. So the planning department is recommending approval of this request. We are not proposing any conditions. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. Is the applicant, Ms. Watson, are you present in the meeting?
We're here, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Do you have anything that you would like to present for the county commissioners or the board to hear? You would have a total of 15 minutes, if so.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to make sure that it's perfectly clear to everybody that there won't be any type of deliveries for client or customer arrivals or departures. So traffic in and out of the residence will not change. And that's the big one. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that the initial environment won't be impacted.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation then?
Yes, sir.
All right, if you would stand by in case there are additional questions, I will open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for comments for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in approval of this application in favor, please go ahead. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing in favor of the application and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, you also would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. Go ahead. Hearing none, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the presentations. Do you have any questions of the applicant or of Ms. Duncan? Hearing none, Vice Chairman Robinson, I will throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions they may have.
Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions for this applicant or for staff regarding this matter? I have none for home rule. Therefore, the silence, I'll take it as none. Chairman Simmons, Board of Commissioners, yield back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Board of Commissioners. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the presentations. May I have a motion, please?
Chairman, this is Rob Thomas. I'd like to make a motion to approve application S 2022-21, a request for special use permit for an in-home maker micro business as presented by staff.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Brandon Penniman. I second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Penniman. I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I will call the question. All in favor of approving application S 2022-21, please answer in the affirmative. Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Knowles.
Yay.
Mr. Penniman.
Approve.
Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Chairman, yay. Motion approves unanimously. Vice Chairman Robinson, I'll throw it to the Board of Commissioners with a recommendation from Planning and Zoning to approve application S 2022-21.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you heard the matter that's been recommended from the Planning and Zoning Board, S 2022-21. I'll take home rule to make the motion to approve this matter. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
I've got a second. Any further discussion? Call the question to approve or deny this. Commissioner Henry Mitchell, how do you vote, sir?
Approve.
Kelly Robinson from the 2nd District says yes. Commissioner Carthen from the 3rd District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
Commissioner Ann Jones Goddard of the 4th District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
We have a 4-0 unanimous vote. Chairman Simmons, we send it back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Robinson. Mr. Roberts, would you introduce the next agenda item, please?
I will, and it's a little complicated, but we're going to vote on a future land use map amendment for M 2022-03. That's going to be the first vote, but during the presentation, you're going to hear the zoning for 2022-2022, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. The applicant is Strategic Development Partners, GC Fairlane. Property owners are Lori Barish Paria, Frederick Talent, Larry Spates, Byron Glisson, Angie Reese, and Vicky Wallers, John and Patricia Wright. The location is going to be Jacobs Road, Douglas Hill, Factory Shoals Road, within land lots 768, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 1. Current zoning is RA, Residential Agriculture. The request is for a light industrial. Future land use has this as urban residential on 1.35 acres. This is Commission District 2. The proposed use is 4 warehouse buildings with approximately 970,000 square feet gross floor area, and staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. I believe this is Mr. Schaefer's case. Mr.
It is.
Schaefer, would you present everything we need to hear on the map amendment and the zoning at the same time, please? And then we'll take them up separately.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So this evening we're hearing a request for a quite large project over in the Douglas Hill Factory Shoals area. The subject properties front the sides of unimproved gravel sections of Factory Shoals Road, variously named as Douglas Hill at the northerly end, Bullard, and Jacobs Road. The sites are bounded on the north and west by the Sweetwater Creek State Park and Sweetwater Creek itself, and bounded on the south by the State Park and Bullard Road. The sites are densely wooded, undeveloped along the westerly tract, with the easterly tracts being partially developed, several with single-family homes and accessory buildings. The site is accessible only from the Bullard Road corridor, which extends partially up from Douglas Hill, and as Douglas Hill's been terminated, I don't know if all of you know that, at the Prologis property, with a three-point turnout bump out so that there's a curb installed blocking the right-of-way in order to prevent car traffic from mixing with truck traffic. The applicant is proposing a mix of 4 warehouse structures of approximately 970,000 square feet total. The buildings would be single-side loading structures and incorporate office spaces along with the working floor areas. The buildings will comprise a 530,000 square foot model, a 182,000 square foot model, a 131,000 and 121,000 square foot model, and their associated loading bays, parking, and drive lanes. All the buildings would be served by access to the existing Douglas Hill right-of-way. The site for the project is along that unimproved segment of Douglas Hill Road and Bullard Road between the State Park property and the Sweetwater Creek. The developer is going to be required to design and implement a connecting road link to the existing paved county right-of-way according to county standards for width and cross-section as part of the Development Review Committee process. Utilizing the corridor identified in the site plans indicates about 1,000 linear feet of the north end of Douglas Hill Road, along with a short portion of Jacobs Bullard Road, would need to be built to county standards with the appropriate connection to the existing terminus of Douglas Hill Road. One of the things that this triggered, of course, at the scale of the proposal was it exceeded the threshold for development of regional impact, which is 500,000 square feet. For industrial developments, and that required a DRI review by the Atlanta Regional Commission and the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority. All of the documentation, paperwork, and studies were submitted and then reviewed by GERTA and ARC. The project was reviewed, and according to the requirements of ARC and GERTA standards, and a final report was issued for the project March 5th, 2022. In the issuance of the final report allows the county to proceed with the rezoning application. Another issue is the Sweetwater Master Plan that we've discussed on a number of occasions. The Southwest Thornton Activity Center Sweetwater Master Plan document outlines a plan and process to guide the development of this area, and we've discussed it on a number of occasions. That study area is about 3,700 acres in total. However, when we looked at this, the majority of this specific request west of Douglas Hill is not in that study area at all. But a portion of the project, the 23 through 29 rezoning requests, are within the Thornton activity 3,700 acres. And of course, that would allow that master plan to guide development in the area. And the master plan did call for residential development on that. I will show you several maps here so that on the far left in purple you can see the study outline area, as well as many of the rooftops that have already been built out in that Sweetwater Master Study area. Here in the middle is the project site in red stippling to show you that the acreage west of this line, which incorporates 3 of the buildings, is not within the study area. However, one of the buildings is within the study area. And on the right, you see that the study area did call for a residential ring around the Sweetwater Park. In the interim, however, and I'm going to move to the next map and show you the project site in its entirety so that you can see We have spoken on occasion to the Sweetwater Park itself, the state park assistant administrator, about a year and a half ago when we were discussing some of these industrial projects, made a comment to staff about how he would prefer not to have residential development up against the park because residential development tends to trespass into the park, and his preference was at the time for industrial development, which he expressed as usually does not trespass into the park. In addition, they expressed the concern that they would not be opening up an easterly entrance to the park, did not express exactly the reason why. We surmise it's because the staffing would require an entrance on that side and they didn't have funding to actually construct or man that entrance, but that's conjecture. The reality is they just expressed they would not be opening an entrance to the east side. And the reason I raise this issue for you is because the premise of the Sweetwater Master Plan allowing residential to ring the properties around the park is as a future goal was based on the idea that the Sweetwater Park would eventually be an amenity and that would be an amenity for residential development to use. However, that premise has proven to be invalid, and therefore some of the premises involved in that master plan are no longer valid in their conclusions. Here is the site plan for the project showing the 4 warehouse buildings. As I mentioned, only the easterly building is within the Sweetwater Master Plan study area. The 3 to the west are not. They did submit a very comprehensive traffic study and analysis for the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority as part of the DRI review process, indicating that 1,570 trips per day would be generated from the project, both cars and trucks, and that here I wanted to share with you the future land use map for the county. So part of the issue is the county's future land use map still portrays the ring around the Sweetwater Park as a future residential development. In order for this project to proceed, they would need to amend that future category from the residential category over to the Commerce Center category, which is what everything else in blue represents in terms of Commerce Center, and that's the request. The Commerce Center compatible zone districts does include LI and LIR, just for reference. And I wanted to share one other finding we made when we were reviewing this. So Allison was good enough to go back through the zoning on property within the county and identify all of the acreage that was zoned for light industrial. And she found that about 3-point-something%, just under 4% of the county is currently zoned light industrial and could or has been built on. I'm showing you a map here that is identifying the industrial node in the Factory Shoals and Douglas Hill area. What you see in the black letter boxes is buildings that have been built. I reviewed the rooftop square footages in existence, as well as that which has been already approved and is in the process of being built, versus what we already know may be coming in the pipeline. This evening we are seeing the 964,000, 970,000 square foot requests up here in red. But already on the books is about 12.5 million square feet in this node alone. The buildings that are approved for construction or in the process of actually building is another 1.5 million square. What was being asked this evening, coupled with what we know may be coming in the pipeline, is approximately another 2 million square feet. Remember that this is light industrial only represents 4% of the county itself, but if all of this were approved, that would represent approximately 14 to 15 million square feet of warehouse space in this industrial node. In the future, we'll talk to the commissioners and the Command Commission about some of the other industrial nodes. I have the actual square footages of several areas in the county so that we can look at the total within the county of what's built. But this is the actual requests and current existing square footage for this industrial node. Here are some pictures to show the site area, the roads connecting into it. As you can see, there's still some gravel road in here, some connections that need to be paved out. The new connection with the north end of Douglas Hill at Factory Shoals in this upper left picture, and then Bullard Road in this lower right picture is still gravel in front of the property itself. Staff reviewed the criteria for the future land use map amendment and feels that it is in fact supportive of the request given the changes that have occurred in this area, and we would recommend approval of that future land use map amendment. Staff also reviewed the zoning criteria for the request, and should the commission and the planning commission see fit to approve the future land use map amendment, the zoning criteria would also be supportive of the requested rezoning for all of the properties. And so staff recommends approval of requested map amendment M 2022-03 to amend the future land use map from urban residential to commerce center with the following findings. A, the character area of this area has been evolving towards a higher intensity of industrial and commercial development, and B, the proposed commerce center character area at this location is generally consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan, land use plan, to ensure compatible and unified development within specified areas of the county. And for the rezoning, staff is recommending approval of the rezoning Z 2022-22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28 and 29 from RA to LI with following findings and conditions. The findings are: 1, the rezoning will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. 2, the proposed zoning is consistent with the comprehensive future land use plan categorization of this property as within the Commerce Center area, incorporating commercial and industrial uses. And 3, the uses permissible in the proposed zone district are generally compatible with the surrounding residential uses. 4, the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare. And then staff recommends 2 conditions on the rezonings. Number 1, the applicant shall be required to connect to the public sewer system for the development with the design criteria and specifics to be reviewed for compliance by the Douglas County Water Sewer Authority. And number 2, the applicant shall submit to the Development Review Committee, DRC, for review and consideration the specific site development and access management plans to address the development standards in the UDC and the concerns and requirements expressed in the specific agency impact statements and DRI report reviewed in the staff report dated April 5th, 2022. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. Before we get to questions from you, I believe, Mr. Fowler, you are representing the applicant on this particular matter. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, first off, is it okay with you if we discuss the map amendments and the rezoning at the same time?
Yes, sir, we would actually request that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and number 2, the conditions that were read in concerning the rezoning, are your clients in agreement with those 2 conditions?
Yes, sir. Mr. John Young, who's on the line with us, specifically reviewed those, and he's authorized me to tell you that he consents to them, and he's on and can answer any questions in just a few minutes. But yes, we do consent.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Fowler, at this point in time, you would have 15 minutes to make a presentation to the commissioners and the board if you would like.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. In April of last year, this property was submitted for a rezoning from residential agricultural to PRD for a single family and townhome community. That means that this very site that is now requested for light industrial, we sought on behalf of the property owners at that time to rezone from lower density residential to a slightly higher residential classification for single family and a townhome community. And then here's what happened. After the filing, we met extensively with staff to discuss the suitability of this location for residential development. And the matter was reset as requested, or I should say tabled, from June 2021 to August the 31st, 2021, so that we could deal with access concerns stemming from the fact that the only suitable existing access was through the existing industrial uses that had developed in the area that you heard Mr. Schaefer describe. As a result, the project as planned, after several months and an extraordinary amount of expense designing what was going to be a single-family residential and townhome community, that was actually abandoned. Several months later, however, recognizing the reality of the existing uses that had developed over time in that specific corridor, the property owner, by the way, there are multiple, as you heard Ron describe earlier, there are multiples, but I will tell you that the family that owns the large block of the property that runs east to west, I think it's been in their family for 75 years. It has been undeveloped, and in recent years, it's been on the market for sale, undeveloped. And initially, it was thought that the Sweetwater Master Plan would enable a residential use in that area to both copy what the county had proposed for the area under the master plan and be a suitable extension. But it turned out not to be the case because of the access problems located or in locating this property near these industrial sites. So after a period of time, the property owners who owned it for a long time was contacted by our client to propose a project consistent with the existing industrial uses. And then shortly after that, a few single-family homes that are, they're nice homes by people who've occupied them for a period of time, some of whom I see on the meeting tonight. They were contacted, and I will say that in the meeting we had with the property owners that the county hosted at the transportation center, they basically have said, our homes are now surrounded by residential, not by residential anymore, but by industrial. We're ready to move. So what happened was the project was assembled as you see it described here. It was presented to the Atlanta Regional Commission for a DRI analysis. The project received a recommendation of approval, and the project, as you've now heard it described by Phil, is for an extension of the existing industrial uses. As I mentioned a moment ago, the two conditions are acceptable. Staff has recommended approval of both the map amendment and the rezoning. It's supported by the DRI, and we would request your approval. Mr. John Young, as I mentioned, is on the line. He can describe the project in greater detail if you wish, can respond to any questions. One of the original developers of the residential project is also on the line if you need any further details about that. The problem was mixing in residential with industrial, and it just did not work. Because of that, the residential was abandoned, and we are now before you tonight with what we believe to be a suitable project recommended by staff and the ARC. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's our presentation. Mr. Young, who may want to make a comment or two, could do so, and we'll be more than glad to respond to questions. John, do you want to say anything at this point?
Sure. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Phil. Just wanted to point out a couple things, kind of adding on to Joe's overview of our site. We specifically targeted this site because we do believe that it is continuous and provides continuity with the current trends that have established in this region of Douglas County. When we were evaluating the potential for this site, one thing that we like to think to ourselves is, are we providing something that is continuous, that does kind of, maintain that same character of our surroundings. And, when we were looking at access from the driveway of our potential project back to Interstate 20, whether that is through the Factory Shoals corridor or the Douglas Hills corridor, our traffic does not intermingle with any residential subdivisions, therefore creating, truly a separation of traffic from industrial and residential, which we believe is very important for our development. There is one, piece of property or assemblage of smaller properties that is still shown on the map as residential, which is actually controlled or owned by T5 data centers, which will likely be proposed in the coming future for a data center or industrial use. That property is not currently developed, and just want to point out that kind of both corridors to our project back to 20 are all industrial. We do accept all the conditions through Douglas County, the Board of Commissioners, and Planning, and are open to any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Young. Mr. Fowler, we appreciate it. At this point in time, if y'all would just stand by, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Larry Spates. I'm at 1760 Bullard Road. And I'd just like to say that all this property that they're talking about out this way is best suited for industrial. That's pretty much what I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes for your comment.
My name is Byron Glisson. I live at 1011 Douglas Hill Road. I'm in favor of this. I think the same as Larry does. I think it should stay in go industrial instead of residential.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes. Hearing no one else, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing on this matter totally. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of the applicant, the representative, or staff on either the map amendment or the zoning? Hearing no comments from Planning and Zoning Board, Vice Chairman Robinson, I will throw it to the Board of Commissioners for any comments or questions y'all may have.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Fellow Board of Commissioners, allow me to take the first lead on this, and I'll yield to you guys if you have further comments or questions regarding this. Director Valentine, are you out there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right. Both intent and spirit of the master plan, I'm going to make a statement. It's acknowledged that a master plan was created for this area of the Sweetwater. And we recognize the goal was to try to have the coexistence of residential and obviously non-residential for the sake of the conversation. Over time, this has evolved. Obviously, light industrial has outstripped perhaps the residential development intent. And so, can you speak to the truck route, that the area that this is going to be on, that it is dedicated to trucks and that we don't have a commingling of residential? Is there a clear line of demarcation? Can you just speak to that area? The applicant made a point about that, and I want to highlight why this is going that way.
Yes, Commissioner, be happy to. Yes, Douglas Hill has been over time developed as an industrial access road from Thornton Road all the way to where the road terminates presently at a cul-de-sac as part of the, initially it was DCT, it is now Prologis development, and the road was cul-de-sac with the vision that there would be a road constructed, a residential access road constructed between an existing subdivision in the city and the Prologis site, and therefore the road was disconnected. It was truncated to provide that separation with the residential zoning and expected development to the west. This particular proposal is proposing to extend, to reconnect Douglas Hill Road and extend it for access into the site The road currently is a gravel road from the paved area cul-de-sac to the adjacent development. And so the access, if the road were extended from that point as an industrial access, it would provide a continuous industrial access all the way to Thornton and potentially where Factory Shoal Road comes into Douglas Hill. That would also provide an alternate industrial access route. So that is, as it relates to industrial access, if extended, it would be a continuous access to Thornton Road.
Thank you. And it does comport with GRTA and the powers to be at the state. You were involved in that process?
Yes, the county is involved in that process. That it comports to the extent that they recognize that this development is going to have some impact, not just in this immediate area, but also at the access points to Thornton Road. And in fact, there was a recommendation for some improvements at those intersections to be done as part of this development if it were approved.
Understood. Thank you, Director Valentin. So to my fellow peers, go back to character areas. Go back to what we're talking about is a map here. Thank you, Phil and Allison, for that wasn't just merely interesting facts. 22 million square feet. One of the things I'm always concerned about is if I would agree or if I support residential going into the area, you're about to put them amongst all these dinosaurs. It's like that may be going the wrong way. This thing is already in play. So I'm always sensitive to, okay, so what am I going to plant in the garden? What's being planted? In essence, I hadn't seen that map from that perspective, though I could envision it, but I got it. And so I'm sensitive to what I'm looking at. So I heard what I need to see. The map was obviously the most compelling argument for me on what's already in play. 4% of overall going, what did you say, what 4% going up to almost 14%, give or take, of all the industrials on that, obviously the east side, and I do get that. You know what my character area is, per se. But I just want to acknowledge, I understand what it is, and I'm more amenable to this. I'm going to yield for now to my fellow peers. Do you guys have any comments that you'd like to speak on this matter?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Madam Guider from the 4th District, you have the floor, please.
And I just have one quick question, and I hope someone can answer. And I apologize, I'm not that familiar with those little roads through the industrial area. But our proposed fire department, is this going to have any adverse effect on it because of truck traffic? I don't know if it's on this side of Thornton Road or the other side of Thornton Road on Douglas Hill, but I do know it's on Douglas Hill, so. And I don't know who can answer that. Miguel, do you know where the fire department that we're going to build, station number 9, is going to be located?
Yes, it is proposed closer to Thornton Road, on the west side of Thornton Road on Douglas Hill. It is probably about a mile, I would say about a mile from this location. And the industrial access would provide, the industrial configuration road would provide access to the fire department by way of Douglas Hill. So essentially they would be traveling from Thornton Road on Douglas Hill all the way to the end. To the existing end would be fairly close. That the existing end cul-de-sac would be where the, I don't know if you can see the cursor on the map, is pretty small, but in that area there is where the road currently terminates at a cul-de-sac. It is paved as an industrial access road to that point, and beyond that, if the development is approved, then they would extend the same configuration to at least to access to another cul-de-sac to provide access to the site.
But go back to that last map that you had on, I think the orange outline piece of property, is that where our fire station's going?
That is correct.
And will they be pulling out on Douglas Hill or on Thornton Road?
They would be pulling out on Douglas Hill, and they generally could either go left or right. I would suspect that for a lot of their calls, they'd be turning left and going out to Thornton Road, but to serve the industrial area, they'd be making a right turn.
Is there going to be I won't go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say that within a mile, they would be able to service all of the industrial development along that road.
Is there going to be a red light there at the, Thornton Road?
There is one now.
There is. Okay, I'm not that familiar with that area, but I just wondered if truck, say we had an emergency, and people, if they're backed up at that site, if there's a lot of trucks, are you going to have some kind of special lights or something to initiate if there's an emergency, a blinking light or something?
There is the potential to implement something like that. It is not a current project in process, but we are considering for future improvements to have what I think what you're referring to is preemption on the signal. That is a consideration for future implementation. Yes, they also would have the ability to, if for some reason that particular intersection was not accessible, they could go around. They could go up Douglas Hill and hit Factory Shoals and work their way either to the east on Factory Shoals and hit Thornton Road again, or go to the west towards Rock House Road and access Riverside Parkway from Rock House Road. So
Okay.
they do have alternate routes available.
I was just concerned if the traffic was backed up there, maybe an extra lane from there to where they exit the fire station to Thornton Road, so that they can get by trucks if they're backed up there. But anyway, I'm sure y'all will work that out. I just was concerned about whether or not it had an adverse effect on our future fire station. So if you're saying it will not, then
it should not.
Okay, it should not. Okay, thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Commissioner Dyer. Your comments are well taken and duly noted, and it was thoughtful. So, Miguel, Director Valentin, you've given her assurance that it should not, and we'll validate that for her as well. My closing point is, again, back to the map. We're back to the master plan. A lot of citizens were involved in that series of master plans. A lot of developers were involved in that. And now, as I attended a couple of those meetings over, when they were being held. And so I just now realized, are we saying that we did not have a major stakeholder at the table, which is Sweetwater Park? That's material to know. That they're like, no, we wouldn't want that. Because, every day now and then, a person's single voice does matter. I just had to make that for the record, like, okay, really? Right, so the intent of the map, which means, Bill, we will revisit this at some point. We have to revisit this. Because you called it invalid. I'll use your word. It was invalid. That we thought we had a major player, a major stakeholder that was like amenable. We're doing this sort of like, hey, we're going to do all this and this. Like, no. We don't do it that way. Right? And this material, because they the state, and I get it, and it makes sense. So let's come back to that at some other time. Let's stay focused on what we're talking about right here with the map. I am comfortable with what I heard as far as the presentation and the findings. Jim, other two peers, do you guys have any comments on this?
Just one, Vice Chair.
Yes. Mr. Mitchell, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, thank you. So Miguel or Ron,
Yes, sir.
are you guys saying that it evolved into this, that this is the highest and best use of this piece of land and this particular makeup as to where we are and where we're going in that area, correct?
I'll jump in. I mean,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I honestly, when I took the helm 4.5 years ago, the plan for Sweetwater master plan was already in play. And the first rezonings we had at that time were Prologis and K2 and a couple other huge rezonings, Commissioner Mitchell. And the best laid plans of man, I guess, but it has evolved after just from 4 years ago to this industrial use, and it makes sense, and that's why staff is a proponent of it. I mean, the roadways, and Miguel can speak to that. From the parallels Prologis back into the city, it's not going to happen. So we find ourselves in the highest and best use for these parcels, and that's where we are at.
Yeah, Commissioner, if I may add, as it relates to the roads, we would even if this extension of industrial road is approved to this location, I am not convinced that access to the park in the future has been invalidated by discussions with the park itself. We do have a project, a county project,
right,
that proposes access to the park from that location, from the end of Rockhouse Road. We had, during that process of developing that plan, we had extensive discussions with the park and the DNR about the access point, and they were in favor of it at that time. So I don't, perhaps there have been changes in personnel and perhaps even perspective, but I would not rule out, and I would not give it as a foregone conclusion that residential access or recreational access to the park from the end of Rockhouse Road is not feasible. In fact, we are continuing to develop that multi-use trail, and the plan involved a trailhead to be established at that location. For that reason, I'm saying that to say as background that the connection of Douglas Hill beyond this location, if it were approved, that does remain a viable public road connection for providing access to that future trailhead for that facility and access to the park.
So are we, while looking into this, we're not validating that we won't have access to that, even though the highest and best use is going industrial, but we're acknowledging that it exists, that we still will have access to this, or we're at least considering that type of an access, whether it's trail connection of how we get there, but we can possibly still do this. Am I hearing you correct? I'm just
yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
That is correct.
You are hearing us correctly. Miguel's completely correct. We've always had, the Sweetwater Master Plan always had an eastern access. It's the second largest park in the state, the first most visited park because of participants coming out of Atlanta, and we would like to see that. It's just that the park staff has changed, as Miguel had stated, over time, and they're not as amenable to the residential component, but we still would like to include that as a trailhead for what we're looking at to hook up with the Chattahoochee plans and other trails that we're identifying in the county. So we're very, very amenable to that. But when we approached staff, they were like, well, if the county can give us this access, and so through the vicissitudes of potential future grants, there's that opportunity. And that's why I think Douglas DOT is going to have the commitment from the developers to have the trails and the sidewalks and the connectivity for that future use.
Got it. So it won't eliminate this if this is approved. this part of it won't be eliminated based on our recent, our 4-year, 5-year land use plan, basically.
I think we're starting a process to engage the next iteration of the comprehensive land use plan. We had our first meeting about 2 weeks ago, Commissioner Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking to get those in. We're going to identify character areas, and this is something we're going to drill down on. But there is a commitment and funding behind some of the trail networks coming out of boundary waters up into that area. So yes, sir, we would like to have that, and we think it would be good for the citizens in Metro Atlanta to have that for economic reasons.
And I'm just hoping that we don't lose that is what I'm alluding to, though. So, but again, I get it, and I understand how things evolve, and change is just that. So, but present it well. I mean, you guys have done a great job at presenting it.
Yes.
But I just want to make sure that the general public understands kind of what this really is, or what it's evolving into. But what we're not going to miss the mark, of that side of it. So, but other than that, I'll leave it there. So I'll yield.
I appreciate you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. And to that point, again, there's a coexistence. Go back to what the premise was. We had residents that were complaining about all these trucks that came up around them. It's grown even bigger. With the introduction of high density townhomes and apartments, we're in conflict. That's in conflict. But what you're doing is the trucks are coming faster than these residential, right? And ain't nothing like being behind those trucks and that you're stuck and you're trying to get to work. That's just that area, that character area. That node right there wasn't designed right. It's what it's evolved, and we take it as it is. But to your point about the trails, that's less impact. Trails doesn't mean you're gonna come and you're gonna leave. You're not gonna buy. That's a different use. That's a different play than obviously people who are living there. I'm listening to what was their point. Oh man, you sort of using the park. But what you heard was a concern about you living by the park. I mean, that's just the position. It's allowed, First Amendment, but it just makes you go, well, we do need to revisit that. I won't belabor that because, again, that's a bigger picture. I want to stay focused on obviously the applicant that is before us. So I'm going to stop. Commissioner Carson, you want to weigh in or you're good? Okay, I'm going to take her silence as being none. So if there's no other comments or questions from the Board of Commissioners regarding this map and all these zoning that's regarding this application, we're going to go back and yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Vice Chairman Robinson. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the comments, you have heard the questions. At this point in time, I would ask for a motion on the map amendment M2022-03, please. Only the map amendment. Planning and Zoning Board, do I have a motion?
Chairman Simmons, this is Rob Thomas.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve application M2022-03, a request for a future land use map amendment from urban residential to commercial center as presented by the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
It's Brandon Perryman.
Second.
Thank you very much. I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the question. All in favor of approving application M2022-03, please answer in the affirmative. Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Knowles.
Yay.
Mr. Penniman.
Approve.
Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Chairman, yay. Thank you very much. Vice Chairman Robinson, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners with a unanimous recommendation to approve application M2022-03.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you heard the recommendation that was passed unanimously by the Planning and Zoning Board for M 2022-03 with home rule. I make the motion to approve this matter. Can I have a second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second for the record. Any further discussion? All right, I'll go ahead and call the question by starting with Commissioner Mitchell and First District. How do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Kelly Robinson from Commission District 2 votes yes. Commissioner Carthen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
Commissioner Guider from the 4th District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, we've got a 4-0 unanimous vote to passing the matter of M 2022-03. Chairman Simmons, I yield the floor back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Board of Commissioners. Planning and Zoning Board, at this point in time, we can now take up the zoning. If I could have a motion on Z 2022-22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29, please.
Chairman Simmons, Rob Thomas, I'd like to make a motion to approve application Z 2022-22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. Request for rezoning from RA to light industrial as presented by staff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas. I have a motion. Do I have a second, Planning and Zoning Board?
Frank Payne, I second.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I will call for the question. All in favor of approving application Z 2022, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, please answer in the affirmative. Mr. Thomas.
Yeah.
Ms. Knowles.
Yay.
That's a capital yay, right? Mr. Penniman.
Approve.
Mr. Curry.
Yay tall.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Chairman, yay on all of them. Vice Chairman Robinson, I will throw it over to the Board of Commissioners with a unanimous approval for application Z 2022 et al.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you heard the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board. I make the motion that we approve the zoning changes of Z 2022, 2022-22 through 29 as recommended by the P&Z Board. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, we got a motion second. Any discussion? All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the question for approval. No further questions or comments. Commissioner Mitchell of the 1st District, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Kelly Robinson from the 2nd District votes yes. Mr. Carthen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Guider, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, we've got a 4-0 unanimous vote for Z 2022-22 through 29. Chairman Simmons, we yield back the floor with an answer.
Oh, thank you very much, Vice Chairman. Mr. Fowler and your clients there, we wish you the best with this project. It looks like it'll be very good for that area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're grateful.
Yes, sir. Mr. Roberts, would you now introduce the next agenda item, please?
Yes, Chairman. 2022-30, Edwin Baker at 1418 McIntosh Road, land lot 735, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 04. The request is for a special use permit for a night watchman's residence, Chairman, on 1.62 acres. The zoning district is light industrial. The staff recommendation is for approval. This is Phil Schaefer's case.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Schaefer, would you provide the staff findings and recommendations for us, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So this Mr. Edwin Baker, Eddie Baker, runs a welding operation and has been the owner of this property for some time. The property is located on the east side of McIntosh Road. The site's partially graded out, has a large gravel parking area and the remains of a former single-family residence foundation and a gravel entrance to the driveway. Mr. Baker's asked for a night watchman's residence. There are no significant planning concerns with the night watchman residence being granted permission. The residents will, of course, need to submit to the health department review and approval of the on-site sewage treatment system to serve the residents. As the property is currently zoned for industrial uses, though no formal industrial uses or structures are being proposed, a more formal commercial or industrial paved driveway, apron and culvert meeting DOT standards does seem more appropriate for the site and will need to be installed to serve the watchman's residential use and that minor 10 by 10 storage building. Any additional industrial activity or structures to be placed on the property will require review and authorization by the DRC and may require additional improvements along the frontage and internally as indicated in the DOT comments of the staff report dated April 5th, 2022. The property does have an unnamed stream towards the rear, so there is a setback requirement that he'll have to be a little bit cautious of. The zoning map for the property shows that it is currently light industrial, as are the properties that surround it, and therefore it has the light industrial development standards applied to it. This is the subject property. As you can see, it is mostly wooded to the south and the east sides of the property. The property to the south does not have anything on it right now, but is industrially zoned. And then south of that is one more residential property. The applicant, Mr. Baker, did submit a site plan to show us where he was going to put the night watchman's residence, as well as a storage building. As I mentioned, we will have to move the storage building a little further in because of that setback requirement. And then this is the survey of the property. This is a picture of the frontage of the property showing that there is fencing along the front and the sides to secure the property, as he does have some materials stored on the site, which is why he's asking for the night watchman's residence so that it can be protected in the evenings and have someone there watching over the property for safety purposes. This is a look into the site from where the driveway connects up to McIntosh. As you can see, it's a gravel driveway with a culvert. What we are suggesting, however, is that the driveway apron and culvert be replaced with a formal concrete apron and culvert properly designed for commercial standards. As a result of review against the criteria, we find that the purposes of the criteria are met for the requested rezoning, for the requested special use application of a night watchman's quarters, and staff is recommending approval with the following findings and conditions. Findings A, the use will not modify the land use plan or the intent, purpose of or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. And B, the granting of the special use permit will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. We do have a couple of conditions. I put 4 conditions I would request. First, the special use permit shall be for a night watchman's residence with an accessory 10 by 10 storage structure, and that any other use of the property not identified within Section 210 uses allowed in each zoning district, specifically Table 2.2, principal uses allowed by right, and 2.3, accessory uses allowed by right, of the Douglas County Unified Development Code may require the submission, review, and approval of a new special use permit. Number 2, the applicant shall construct a Douglas County Standard number 1.15 commercial classification paved driveway entry to the property to serve the watchman's residence and proposed 10 by 10 storage structure. Any additional industrial activity or structures to be placed on the property will require a review and authorization by the Development Review Committee and may require additional improvements along the frontage and internally as indicated in the DOT comments of this report. Number 3, that the applicant shall dedicate additional right-of-way along McIntosh to provide for a 25-foot width from center line of the existing roadway. And 4, the applicant shall provide a level 3 soils analysis and complete the health department permitting procedure to obtain authorization to locate the watchman residence on the property within an appropriate septic sewage system. And then we have added a directive to staff to go out and inspect the property in a year, so we would have a year to comply with all of these conditions to establish the use and perform all of the required conditions of approval. And with that, I will return it to you, Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Baker, I see you're online with us here. Would you like to make any comments for Planning and Zoning Board or the Board of Commissioners? If you would, state your name and address for the record, and you would have 15 minutes.
No, everything is fine. Mr. Field, he said everything what I needed to do.
Okay, if you, do you have anything else, Mr. Baker?
No, I just saying thank you for everything.
Okay, if you would just stand by in case the Board of Commissioners or Planning and Zoning Board has any questions of you, I will, at this point in time, open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes to make any comments that you would like for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, go ahead. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing on the in favor part and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application, you also state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing on this matter at this point in time. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of Mr. Baker or of Mr. Schaefer?
I have a quick question, Chairman Simmons.
Go ahead.
Mr. Baker, this is Rob Thomas. So you've been having issues with someone that's breaking in?
Say that once.
When you're over there?
Say that once.
You've been having issues that people have been breaking in?
Yes, they done went in there and took a lot of stuff out of there, so that's why I requested something like a night watchman over in there.
What about the next door? When I visited your property, I noticed the parcel next to yours is similar usage, storage. Have you heard any issues with that parcel over there? Do you know the owner of that parcel?
Yeah, he been having issues also.
Well, I figured maybe you guys can team up on this night watchman, and maybe you guys can split the cost. It's like a lot of infrastructure that has to be put into place here, as well as cost for a person to be there all night. Maybe you guys can work together on splitting the cost, and maybe you can watch both parcels. But anyway, that's what I thought about. Sorry to hear about your break-ins. That's all I have. Just a comment.
I can't hardly understand what you're saying there, but I spoke with him a couple of times. We've been trying to get some stuff together on this.
Okay, any other questions? Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Vice Chairman Robinson, I will throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you may have of staff or Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, any comments or questions of staff or the applicant at this time? With that silent, I take it as none. Chairman Simmons, there's no question from the Board of Commissioners. We yield back to you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Board of Commissioners. Mr. Baker, before we go any further, you heard Mr. Schaefer read in the conditions on this matter. Are you in agreement with those conditions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I just needed an affirmative on that on the record. Planning and Zoning Board, do I have a motion on S 2022-30, please?
This is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve application S 2022-30, a request for a special use permit to allow night watchman quarters and 10-foot by 10-foot storage structure for equipment and materials as presented by staff and the conditions.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, it's Teresa Knowles.
Thank you very much, Ms. Knowles. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing no discussion, I will call the question. Everyone wishing to approve application S 2022-30, please answer in the affirmative. Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Knowles,
Yay.
Mr. Penniman,
Approve.
Mr. Curry,
Yay.
Mr. Payne,
Yay.
Chairman, yay. Thank you very much. It passes. Vice Chairman Robinson, we will throw it to the Board of Commissioners with a unanimous recommendation to approve S 2022-30.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, we heard the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board to approve S 2022-30. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, I'll call the question. All in the affirmative. Commissioner Mitchell, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Phil Robinson from the 2nd District votes yes. Mr. Carson from the 3rd District, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Ann Jones-Guider from the 4th District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, we got a 4-0 unanimous vote for S 2022-30 from the Board of Commissioners. Chairman Simmons, we yield back the floor.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Board of Commissioners. Mr. Roberts, please introduce our next agenda item, please.
Yes, sir. Z 2022-33, Don DeClerk. The location is 2304 Fairburn Road, Douglasville, 30135, land lot 973967, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 1. The current zoning is a residential low density highway corridor overlay. The request is for heavy commercial on 5.42 acres in District 2. The recommendation by staff, Chairman, is that is for approval with conditions. And this is Allison's.
Okay.
Case.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. Ms. Duncan, would you provide staff findings and the staff recommendation on this matter, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, per as Mr. Roberts read into the record, the request filed with this application was to rezone the property from residential low density to heavy commercial for an office building for an attorney's office. Just want to clarify, the staff recommendation is actually not to approve to heavy commercial, but to approve to a general commercial with conditions. And as we go through our staff recommendation, we will explain that a little bit more. Here is the zoning map showing the outline of the parcel and the current residential zoning classification on the property. And here is an aerial view of the property. You can see where the house is set back substantially from Highway 92. Here is a view from Highway 92, and again, you can see how far the house is set back from the road behind the existing vegetation. It is the request of the applicant to use the existing house for the office. Maybe at some future date, this property would have some additional buildings constructed to add some additional space if the business were to grow. But the initial intent is to just use this as a conversion into a commercial use for an attorney's office. The general commercial zoning classification does accommodate that use. Therefore, we are recommending that rather than the heavy commercial use, that the general commercial is more appropriate. And I believe the applicant is amenable to that, but you can ask that question specifically when they address the board and the commission. Here is the view looking south on Highway 92. And then here is the view looking north on Highway 92. Staff did analyze the request against the criteria in the code for zoning consideration, and we did find that it substantially supports the requests of the applicant. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the request to rezone the property from the RLD single-family low-density residential to the general commercial zoning classification with conditions based on the following findings and conditions. So the findings include that the rezoning is consistent with the Douglas County Comprehensive Plan and the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. B, that a negative impact to surrounding properties will not result from the rezoning. And C, the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare and represents best planning practices. And then we have identified several conditions. So number one, all parking areas on the property must be asphalt or concrete. The property will be required to meet any additional provisions of Article 6, which is the parking and loading requirements of the Douglas County Unified Development Code, including review and approval by the Development Review Committee prior to the issuance of an occupational tax license on the property. Number 2, the property will be brought into compliance with the requirements of the Highway Corridor Overlay prior to the issuance of an occupational tax license on the property. Number 3, the property will be required to meet all provisions of Article 8, landscaping buffers and tree conservation of the Douglas County Unified Development Code in regard to buffers and setbacks between commercial and residential land uses, including review and approval by the Development Review Committee prior to the issuance of an occupational tax license on the property. Number 4, the existing right-of-way along Fairburn Road does not comply with minimum right-of-way width for a major arterial roadway per the UDC. Right-of-way width for a major arterial roadway is 120 feet. Therefore, additional right-of-way is required to provide 60 feet from the right-of-way center line along the property frontage. Number 5, a copy of the recorded right-of-way dedication to GDOT is required prior to plan approval. Number 6, the 2 driveways shall be consolidated into one. The alignment of the proposed driveway shall be centered on the median opening of Fairburn Road and shall have a GDOT-approved deceleration lane complying with the 45-mile-per-hour design with GDOT approval. Number 7, to comply with Douglas County UDC, installation of curb and gutter and appropriate drainage structures are required along the property frontage with GDOT approval. Number 8, a copy of the approved GDOT permit is required prior to plan approval. And number 9, the applicant must present the plans for compliance with these conditions and any other applicable portions of the Unified Development Code to the Douglas County Development Review Committee. DRC shall have the discretion to direct staff to schedule the zoning action to be returned to the Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners to consider rezoning of the property at the next regularly scheduled zoning hearing if the property fails to be brought into compliance with the required conditions or other applicable codes and regulations. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. Is Ms. DeClerk in the meeting, I believe?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you have heard, you applied for a different zoning, but we have changed that to general commercial from heavy. Are you in agreement with that? Is that okay with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you've also heard the conditions that Ms. Duncan read into the record. Are you in agreement with those conditions?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. At this point in time, you have up to 15 minutes if you would like to make a presentation to the Planning and Zoning Board and for the Board of Commissioners. State your name, address for the record, and then go ahead if you'd like.
Okay. My name is Dawn DeClerk. I live at 3925 Herschel Drive, Douglasville. I'm a family law attorney. I've been practicing for about 28 years. And I do mediations, and I'm kind of like the first applicant. After driving to downtown Decatur for 28 years, I'm very excited to potentially have an office that will be 5 minutes from my home. I want to thank Ms. Duncan and Mr. Schaefer. They've fielded many of my questions, and I think I probably will have several more in the future. But I just hope that we get our approval.
Okay, thank you very much. If you would just stand by in case there are any questions from the Planning and Zoning Board, the Board of Commissioners, we'll be right back with you. At this point in time, I will open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak, go ahead. Hearing none or seeing none, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please state your name and address for the record. Make any comments you would like. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Hearing or seeing none, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the comments, you have heard the questions and answers. Do you have any questions now of the applicant or of Ms. Duncan? Hearing none, Vice Chairman Robinson, I will throw the meeting over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions y'all may have of staff or the applicant.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Fellow Commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicant or staff regarding this matter? I take that as none. home rule, I'd like to speak to the applicant. Again, we appreciate your interest in Douglas County. Class A office space is sort of what we're desiring with lawyers and accountants and so forth, something that we've always wanted to attract. So we appreciate that you have identified us as a place in which you would like to set up shop. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. While you hear there's a lot of high industrial that is here, that is growing and so forth, but we always want to balance our portfolio as it relates to what we try to attract, but we can't force it. Nonetheless, I just wanted to make that statement. There's no further questions from the Board of Commissioners. So Chairman Simmons, I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the comments, you have heard the staff recommendations. Do you have a motion for me on Z 2022-33?
Chairman Simmons, Rob Thomas. I would like to make a motion to approve application D 2022-33, a request for rezoning from low-density residential to general commercial with the conditions that were read in by staff.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Or Curry, second.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Planning and Zoning Board. Hearing no discussion, I will call the question. Everyone wishing to vote in favor of the motion to approve application Z 2022-33, please answer in the affirmative. Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Knowles.
Yay.
Mr. Penniman.
Approve.
Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Chairman, yay. Thank you very much. Vice Chairman Robinson, I'll throw it to the Board of Commissioners with a unanimous approval to application Z 2022-33.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you heard the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board. I make a motion that we accept and vote to approve S 2022-33 with conditions as read into the record. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion regarding this matter before?
Just one minor correction there. That will be Z 2020.
Did I say S?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Let me make a stand for corrected. Can we pull up our second for a minute? Let me just correct it. Madam McCarthy, can you pull up your second? I'll correct it without a problem.
That was Madam Guider.
Oh, Madam Guider? No, thank you, Madam Guider. Didn't hear. Thank you, Madam Guider.
And
all
I
right.
will pull it. Yes.
All right. All right, I'll correct it. Board of Commissioners, I put forth I make a motion to approve Z 2022-33 as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board with conditions as stated. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Thank you, Madam Guider. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all right, I'll call the question. Commissioner of the First District, Henry Mitchell III, how do you vote?
Approve.
All right, Kelly Robinson of the Second District, I vote yes. Commissioner Carson of the Third District, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Ann Jones Goddard of the Fourth District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, we got a 4-0 unanimous vote from the Board of Commissioners. Chairman Simmons, we yield the floor back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Board of Commissioners. Mr. Clerk, we wish you the best with this law office there on Fairburn Road.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mr. Roberts, please introduce our next agenda item, please.
Yes, Chairman, it's Z 2022-34 T21 Holdings at 1460 McIntosh Road within land lot 735, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 6. Current zoning is RLD. Its future land use is workplace center on 0.65 acres. The proposed use is road and parking lot striping business. The recommendation from staff, Chairman, is for approval.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe this is Mr. Schaefer's case, if he would provide the staff findings and recommendations for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, so the property is on the east side of McIntosh Road, just north of the existing entry into the Tidwell Construction Company's location. It does adjoin that entry driveway and yard for the company. Property is developed currently with a single-family residence and also partially wooded. The applicant's proposing to use the house as an office for their road and parking lot striping business in concert with the previously approved rezoning and warehouse that was to go on to the properties immediately south. And the access to the proposed business will be via the paved entry that also was previously approved through the Development Review Committee coming in off of McIntosh to serve the warehouse and the business office in this house. If additional structures are required and a separate property line setbacks for each lot become an issue, the applicant can file a lot line rearrangement plat, and I will be happy to help with that and record as needed in case we have to adjust lot lines in order for the warehouse and the house to work together on the same property. Here is a zoning map of the property to show you the property is in red. Currently, it is residential low density. The properties immediately south, we rezoned those under Z 2021-41, August 31st of last year for the warehouse project. As you can see, it is industrial around the property except on the north side, which causes a little bit of a problem with the setbacks for incompatible land uses. Here is the site plan that actually went through Development Review Committee approval process. It did not include the house and small parking area in a final version yet, so we are still working on getting the final dimension here to make sure whether or not we need a variance from the incompatible buffer that is required. It's a 50-foot buffer that's normally required between incompatible zoning districts, and we do still have residential along this north property line. So we'll take care of that, but for right now, they just wish to rezone the property to light industrial in order to renovate the house into an office so that it can be used for coming in the morning, getting the paperwork ready, getting everybody set up to get out, and then running into the warehouse, picking up the materials, picking up equipment, and then heading out to job sites. And in the reverse in the afternoon, coming back, unloading the warehouse, working up the paperwork, getting in their cars and going home. The existing house does have a septic system, so the health department will have to verify that when we convert it to an office use as opposed to residential use, that should still work. But again, that's a health department call for approval. Here is a picture of looking north along McIntosh. To the right is the main entrance to the Tidwell construction site. The trees in the foreground are the rezoned properties from August of last year. Then here we are looking again just into the properties that were rezoned last year, where the warehouse and parking area, this is approximately where the new driveway will go, and the house that is subject to tonight's rezoning request is right here on the left. When you enter the new driveway, you would turn left into the house parking area. There would no longer be access to McIntosh from the house directly as there is now for a residential driveway. That will go away. And again, staff reviewed the criteria for the rezoning and find that the supported rezoning is in fact supported by all of the criteria, and staff is recommending approval with the following findings. 1, the rezoning will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. 2, the proposed zoning is consistent with the comprehensive future land use plan. Categorization of the property is within the workplace center area, incorporating mixed industrial, general, and heavy commercial uses. Number 3, the uses permissible in the proposed zoning district are generally compatible with surrounding properties. 4, the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. And number 5, the character of this area is still transitioning toward a more industrial mix of uses. 2 conditions we ask for. Number 1, the applicant shall submit to the Development Review Committee for review and consideration the specific site development and access management plans to address the development standards in the UDC and the concerns and requirements expressed in the specific agency impact statements reviewed in this staff report dated April 5th, 2022. And number 2, that obtain a variance for the reduction in required zoning buffer along the side yard area of the existing residence if needed after a final evaluation of the site plans. And with that, I will yield back to you, Chairman Simmons, if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. Let me ask you this, then, if we approve this rezoning, then both of these properties will be the same?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Okay, everything will be in order there. All right, I believe Mr. Fowler is here. I'm not sure if Mr. Tidwell or Mr. Forlow are here, but Mr. Fowler, you have heard the conditions read into the record. Are you and your clients in agreement to those conditions?
Yes, sir. We've discussed them. Mr. Mark Tidwell is on with us. We approve those conditions.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Fowler, you would have 15 minutes to make any presentation that you would like. If you would state your name and address for the record, go ahead.
Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 49 in Douglasville. We appreciated the rezoning back last August. We gave a great deal of consideration to what we needed to do for office purposes. Since August, the solution that we arrived at was what you see before you. That is the office by acquiring the property next door and rezoning it. The conditions are fine. As Phil explained it, we may have a variance to obtain in the future. But this, more than anything, it's not housekeeping exactly, but it's enabling us to finish off what we had begun last August. That is now with a formal office. We recognize we'll need to meet with the staff. We can certainly do that later. But that's it, Mr. Chairman. We're just asking to acquire this property, rezone it for a consistent use, use that as the office for the facility. Mr. Tidwell can respond to any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fowler. If y'all would just stand by for a minute, I'm going to open the public hearing on this matter. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total of 30 minutes allocated. Anyone wish to speak in favor, go ahead. Hearing or seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing on the in favor portion and open the public hearing on the opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person and for a total of 30 minutes allocated. Go ahead. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions for Mr. Fowler or Mr. Schaefer?
Chairman Sim, this is Rob. I have a question for Mr. Schaefer.
Go ahead.
Phil, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
So, whenever I see light industrial, it does raise concern to me because obviously they can now park a limited amount of trucks, semis in that space, right? I mean, light industrial can allow for that by right. So my question here is, can the same purpose that they want to use this particular parcel for, this building for, as an office, could that be obtained by a lower level, like just general commercial or even heavy commercial?
No, the zoning in our county is monolithic. So LI has its specific set of uses, CH has its specific set of uses, and CG has its specific set of uses. They may overlap a little bit, but you would have to be rezoned to CH to do those specific uses in CH if they were not, in fact, also allowed in the LI. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I understand what you said, but with the LI, now they're going to have that 50-foot setback. They'll come back to us later for a variance. If they went with, CG or maybe higher, they won't need that.
No, they would still need it. No, it's an incompatible use buffer.
But what's the buffer? The between residential and commercial?
It's 50 feet. So it's an incompatible zoning buffer. Irregardless, it's going to be anything residential up against commercial or industrial. It requires a 50-foot buffer. What we've seen in the Development Review Committee is a structural buffer that would allow them to reduce the 50 feet down to the 30 feet or 20 feet as you see it here hatched out on the plans. And what we're just not sure, because the building itself exists already, we still need a final measurement from the edge of the building to that property line, and they still may need a variance. The rest of the property, of course, could be used for the storing of vehicles that are fleet vehicles, which is what we anticipate in the proposed gravel storage area on property that's already been rezoned light industrial. So the warehouse and the warehouse parking area itself, that's where cars and trucks will probably be stored, but that's already zoned light industrial.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Vice Chairman Robinson, I will throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions or comments you may have.
All right, thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do you have any comments regarding for staff or for the applicant?
I have one. I'm sorry.
Mr. Mitchell, you have the floor.
Yeah, just one. Phil, help me make sure I understand about the septic use or not use for that's a health and or a WSA situation that will be addressed at that time. Bring me back up to speed on that again.
Yes, sir. So in terms of using the house as a residence, it does have an existing operational septic system in working order. However, when we change that over to an office, the health department will just verify that the loading for, say, an office, having one or two people use the office in the morning, coming in and doing paperwork, would not exceed the loading that a residence would apply to that existing septic system, just to verify that it still operates correctly, regardless of whether it's a residence or an office.
And if we find that that's not the case, that it may require more, then they're going to be responsible for either increasing it or trying to tap into the sewer system, or what's that look like?
It'll have to be a septic system improvement on site. The sewer is over 1,000 feet away.
Got it. Okay.
But we'll catch that at DRC, just so you can be comfortable. There still have to be the final DRC, and Susan Wright, our Director of Health, she sits in on our DRC meetings, so she's aware of this project.
Got it. Okay. All right. I'll yield back. All right. That's all I got. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. One Commissioner, any other further comments or questions? All right, Chairman Simmons, I yield back the floor to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the questions and comments. Do I have a motion on Z 2022-34, please?
This is Brandon Penniman. I make a motion to approve application Z 2022-34, a request for rezoning from RLD to LI with the following findings and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Penniman. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Frank Payne, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing no discussion, I'll call the question. Everyone wishing to approve application Z 2022-34, please answer in the affirmative. Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Knowles.
Yay.
Mr. Penniman.
Approve.
Mr. Curry. Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Thank you. Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Chairman, yay on this one. Vice Chairman Robinson, well, I'll throw it to the Board of Commissioners from Planning and Zoning Board with a unanimous request for approval of application Z 2022-34.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard the matter from the Planning and Zoning Board regarding Z 2022-34, a recommendation to approve. Can I get a motion?
Vice Chairman Robinson, I'd like to make a motion to approve Z 2022-34. The recommendation is approval with the finding and conditions as stated by the Planning and Zoning Board.
All right, we have the motion. Can I get a second from anyone?
Second.
Right, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question by polling each one of you for a vote. Commissioner Mitchell of the 1st District, how do you vote, sir?
Approved.
Kelly Robinson of the 2nd District, I vote yes. Commissioner Carson of the 3rd District, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Ann Jones-Goddard of the 4th District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, we got a 4-0 unanimous vote to approve Z 2022-34. Chairman Simmons, we yield the floor back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Board of Commissioners. Mr. Fowler, Mr. Tidwell, we wish you the best getting these properties together and going forward with your business there. Looks good.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Roberts, please introduce our next agenda item, please.
I will. It's going to be S 2022-35 Jackie Owens. A request for a special use permit to allow an accessory dwelling located on Brookmont Parkway, 30134, land lot 76, District 1, Section 5, and parcel 18. Lot size is 10.88 acres. The application was signed by Jackie Owens. I recognize, Chairman, that Warwick Curry is the Brookmont HOA president. So I'm asking for a legal appeal to whether or not his participation is valid or not.
County Attorney?
Is Michael Coleman on the line?
I am sorry, I am here. I stepped away and I stepped back in and heard you call my name. I didn't hear the question. It's regarding the Owens special use permit.
That's correct, Michael Coleman. So the request is for a special use permit to allow an accessory dwelling located at Brookmont Parkway in the Brookmont subdivision. One of our P&Z board members who is held in high regard. He's been very participatory, but he's also the Brookmont HOA president. So I needed to have some understanding of what his participation for this vote could be, or if he needed to abstain.
I would recommend that he abstain. Typically, such decisions are based on whether or not there is a financial interest, and it doesn't sound like that there is here, but given the whole question of impropriety, and you wouldn't want anybody to think that anything was improper or had given an appearance of impropriety, based upon that, it would be my recommendation that he abstain from voting.
Okay, I appreciate your thoughts. Chairman Brigg, I'll turn it back over to you, and Oric, I appreciate your conversation earlier.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Oric, are you in agreement with abstaining on this matter?
Yes, I am.
Okay, very good. This, I believe, is this Mr. Schaefer's or Ms. Duncan's?
This is my case, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Ms. Duncan, would you give us your staff findings and recommendations, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. As Mr. Roberts said, this is a request for a special use permit to allow an accessory dwelling. This is on basically raw land, so it is not yet addressed. It is 10 acres on Brookmont Parkway. I'm showing you here the zoning map with the parcel currently outlined in red. And here is an aerial view of the property. You can see that the property is currently undeveloped. Here is an image of the property from Brookmont Parkway and an image of the property across the street. And here is the view looking east on Brookmont Parkway and the view looking west on Brookmont Parkway. Here is the site plan. Basically, the request is to subdivide the property into 2 parcels. That has already been completed by Mr. Schaefer. So the first tract, if you can see my cursor on the screen, is a little over 3 acres. And the purpose of that subdivision is to build one single-family detached house. That leaves the remainder of the tract a little over 7 acres. And the purpose of that is to build another single-family detached house. That house is approximately 4,600 square feet. And the request of the special use permit is to build an accessory dwelling, approximately 2,700 square feet, on that 7-acre tract, so that all 3 of these houses may be occupied by members of the same family, so that they may live in proximity to one another. So the size of the accessory dwelling does comply with the limitation for building an accessory dwelling under the code. Staff has analyzed this request against the criteria for a special use permit in the code, and we have found that the code substantially supports the requested use. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of this request, and we have not recommended any conditions. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative present in the meeting? If you would unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, and make any presentation you would like for the boards to hear, you would have 15 minutes.
Yes, I'm Tammy Owens at 3816 Pretty Drive in Lithia Springs. We are looking to build a 3-family house with my son and his family, my daughter and her family, and my husband and myself. And we hope we get approved.
Okay, is that it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, go ahead. Hearing none and seeing no one trying to intervene here, I will close the public hearing in favor of this matter and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Go ahead. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing on this matter at this point in time. Any questions from Planning and Zoning Board for staff or Ms. Owens?
Yes, this is Brandon Pittum. I got a quick question. Ms. Owens, how long did you say you lived in Douglas County?
I've been living in Douglas County for 47 years.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, that was all I needed. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, I will throw it over to Vice Chairman Robinson for any questions from the Board of Commissioners. Mr. Robinson.
Fellow Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments for the applicant or staff regarding this matter? Okay, I'll take your silence being none. Being home rule, this is my district. It appears that the lot size and the home size are compatible with that immediate area, so I have no further issues with that. Chairman Simmons, the full Board of Commissioners, yield back to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, do I have a motion on S 2022-35?
This is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve application S 2022-35, a request for special use permit for a detached accessory dwelling.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the question. Everyone wishing to approve application S 2022-35, please answer in the affirmative. Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Knowles.
Yay.
Mr. Penniman.
Approve.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Mr. Curry abstains. The chairman, yay. Thank you very much. I'll throw this over to the Board of Commissioners with a unanimous approval, well, almost a unanimous approval for application S 2022-35. We had one abstention there.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. The Board of Commissioners, you heard the recommendation to approve application S 2022-35 from the Planning and Zoning Board. I so make the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Madam Guider. I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I call the question by polling each of our commissioners. I'll start with Commissioner of the First District, Henry Mitchell III. How do you vote, sir?
Approve.
Kelly Robinson of Commission District 2, I vote yes. Commissioner Carson of the 3rd District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
Commissioner Ann Jones Guider of the 4th District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, we have a 4-0 unanimous vote for S 2022-35. Chairman Simmons, the Board of Commissioners, you back the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much on that, Ms. Owens. We wish you the best on that. I think it's great. You'll have a little family compound down there. So,
that's awesome.
Best of your family.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
You're welcome. Mr. Roberts, would you please present our last agenda item? Our last agenda item.
I will, Chairman, and I appreciate everybody in attendance tonight, and appreciate the citizens as well, and appreciate the staff. Our last agenda item for tonight is Z 2022-38 Stream Realty. This is the Vogmani Family Trust at 1165 Veterans Memorial Highway, Douglasville, Georgia, land lot 634, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 20. Current zoning is a heavy commercial with conditions. The request is to go low density single family residential on 11.2 acres. This is Commissioner District number 1, and the staff is recommending approval of the rezoning to RLD with conditions. This is Allison Duncan's case.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. Ms. Duncan, would you provide us staff findings and recommendations for us, please?
Yes, sir. In regard to the existing conditions, the site is located on the south side of Highway 78, approximately opposite of the Don Foods driveway. The property is heavily wooded and undeveloped. This site is constrained by required stream buffer setbacks. The adjacent frontage parcels are developed for commercial uses, while adjacent parcels that surround the rear of the property are residential in nature. The subject property was rezoned to heavy commercial with conditions in 2006 for the purposes of building 2 small office buildings and a mini warehouse storage facility. Those plans have never come to fruition, so the property continues to remain vacant. Here is the zoning map. The red arrow indicates the current parcel under consideration. And here is an aerial view showing the property under consideration. You can see that the adjacent road frontage up on Veterans Memorial is developed with commercial uses, but to the rear of the property is flanked generally by low-density residential uses, and the property itself remains heavily wooded and undeveloped. So here's a view of the property and that small area of road frontage that they have on Veterans Memorial. So this is the view from Veterans Memorial. And here's the view looking east on Veterans Memorial, and the opposite view. And then here is the site plan for the proposed subdivision. The applicants are proposing approximately 16 single-family detached lots. As noted in the staff report, there will need to be some minor adjustments made to this site plan to accommodate for the required minimum dimensional requirements of the lots in the RLD district. There's also a stream buffer here, so they will need to accommodate the required setbacks for the stream buffer. But generally speaking, the staff did analyze the concept plan adjacent in consideration of the zoning criteria, and we did find that generally speaking, the criteria in the code does support the rezoning request. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this rezoning request to the low-density single-family residential district, which is the RLD, with the following findings and conditions. The findings include number 1, that the rezoning is consistent with the Douglas County Comprehensive Plan and the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. Number 2, the negative impact to surrounding properties will not result from the rezoning. And number 3, the granting of the rezoning request will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, and represents best planning practices. In regard to conditions, we did have a few conditions that we wanted to set forth on this rezoning. Number 1, the site plan shall be revised prior to submission for preliminary plat review to comply with the minimum requirements of the Unified Development Code, including the minimum lot size for the RLD zoning district and the minimum required stream buffers that apply to the Sparks Reservoir drainage basin. Number 2, because Veterans Memorial Highway is a major arterial roadway requiring a 120-foot right-of-way, additional right-of-way equal to 1/2 of 120 feet shall be dedicated to GDOT as measured from the roadway center line per GDOT approval. Number 3, per the Unified Development Code requirements, a left turn lane is required for proposed driveways that access major arterial roadway with GDOT approval. Number 4, provide a 150-foot right turn lane with an additional 50-foot taper for the proposed driveway with GDOT approval. Number 5, curb and gutter and appropriate drainage structures are required along the property frontage of Veterans Memorial Highway and shall extend to the end of the right turn lane per GDOT approval. Number 6, a 5-foot wide sidewalk with 4-foot sided median is required along the property frontage of Veterans Memorial Highway, extending to the end of the right turn lane. Number 7, the site plan as shown exceeds the maximum length of a cul-de-sac street, which is 600 feet, and will have to comply with the requirements of the Unified Development Code. Number 8, a copy of the GDOT approved work permit is required. And number 9, the property frontage will include a 20-foot landscape strip with 3 canopy trees, 3 understory trees, 2 evergreen coniferous trees, and 18 shrubs per 100 feet of linear frontage, or a portion thereof that is determined to be suitable to meet the intent of this requirement by the Douglas County Arborist. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. Is the applicant present in the meeting?
Yes, I am, and this is Scott Jones from Stream Realty.
Okay, Mr. Jones, you have heard the conditions read into the record. Are you in agreement with those conditions?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, thank you very much. If you would like, you have 15 minutes to make a presentation to Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners. If you would just state your name and address for the record, go ahead.
Certainly, Scott Jones, and that's 1251 Poinsett Place in Decatur, Georgia. And quite frankly, I think Allison did a fantastic job and probably a better job than I could ever do. So it sounds like y'all have all the facts. Say really the only other thing I would add is that, you know, the nearest sewer is, I believe, about 1,300 linear feet away. So call it a fifth of a mile. And so as far as uses that would be allowed and approved by y'all and others that maybe aren't present, the current zoning of heavy commercial would be challenging because it would have to be serviced by septic since the sewer is so far away. So that is a huge constraining variable here and kind of part of our thought logic in pursuing single family residential for this property, beyond it being, we believe, hopefully y'all believe too, highest and best use for this site. But that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. If you would just stand by for a few minutes in case there are any questions, I will open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record, and you would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, go ahead.
Anthony Parrish, 1352 Scott Drive. Technically, I would speak in favor of the rezoning away from commercial to residential. That's a fact. I do have additional questions concerning how this is done. Allison, you mentioned rezoning or resizing the lots. Who oversees the resizing of the lots? Is that the Development Review Committee? And so, is there any public input on that? I believe the gentleman from Stream Realty did mention that the sewer was out of the question. That makes sense too. My concern there is that this property has been purchased in the past, and so I assume that each lot will be filed.
Mr. Parrish, we're having extreme difficulty understanding you. You keep fading down. So, could you repeat?
So, is this better? Is this better?
Somewhat better. It's still difficult to understand you.
Should I try to have a one-on-one discussion with someone about this? Sorry.
There's just a bad echo when you start talking and it fades out. I don't know if anyone else has their system unmuted or not.
If everybody can mute their system, that would be great. And let's see if we can hear what the applicant is saying.
Try again, Mr. Parrish.
I'm sorry. I think my comments are.
Mr. Parrish? I'm afraid we've lost Mr. Parrish.
Mr. Chairman, I do have his phone number from a message he left me. I can put myself on mute and try to call him and see if I can patch him in through my my speakerphone. If you would like me to.
Okay, why don't you do that, and we'll go ahead, and then we'll come back.
All right, will do.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes. Okay, at this point in time, we'll put a pin in the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. You would have 3 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
One of my questions is, should I take my questions offline and wait? That means.
Okay, no one wishing to speak in opposition to this application. At this point in time, Ms. Duncan, have you got Mr. Parrish on the line? We can continue the in favor portion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I think I do have him on the line. I think he's just muting his system. So Mr. Parrish, are you there?
I am here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. I honestly can't hear anyone else, but that's okay. Now my questions were concerning
who oversees the recycling of lots, because I saw that in the mention of the documents provided, and if there was any public input into that, since sewer is not an option, and this septic would have to be considered for these lots. Even though in the past this land has not passed perk testing, at least on 2 different occasions. That's the majority of my question. The other questions I had can be taken up with whoever is working on this, and whether I assume that again there's the development review committee.
Yes, this will go for the development review committee as it proceeds down the road.
I can't hear anything else.
So the chairman is confirming that it would be the development review committee. So, but I believe if that concludes your comments, then I can hang up this line and you can continue to listen in the meeting. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
All right. Does that conclude your comments, Mr. Parrish?
Yes, thank you.
All right, great. So we'll hang up and then you can listen in to the rest of the meeting if that works. So, and thank you for working with our technical difficulty. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this point in time, I will close the public hearings on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of Mr. Jones or Ms. Duncan?
This is Frank Payne. I have a couple of questions to Mr. Jones. The entrance to the subdivision, is the only way to get there is off of Veteran Memorial?
Great question. And yes, that's the case. We've only got 90 feet of frontage to work with and a condemned old house just off that frontage. So we got a little wood to chop there, but that's what we got.
Okay. Second question. What size are the houses? I mean, in terms of bedrooms. How many bedrooms would the homes have?
Yeah, we're looking at sort of a 3-2. Quite frankly, you know, it's more up to code and that sort of stuff. I'm gonna release a whole bunch of stuff that cost me a bunch of money tomorrow, but I didn't want to potentially light that money on fire until we either got favorable or unfavorable news from this year meeting, if that makes sense.
Do you have an estimate on the average cost per home?
Estimates are, I'd say, right around $150 a foot, but golly, man, if you've talked to a contractor lately, it's like, you know, every 10 minutes they have new bad news for me, it seems like. So
Right. Okay. All right. That's what all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, this is
Any other
Brandon
questions?
Penniman. This is Brandon Penniman. Just want to take that question of Frank Payne's just a little bit further. With you getting that bad news every day, of course, with the prices changing, understanding real estate, can you give us any type of concrete numbers that you're expecting between 200, 300,000? Give me large general numbers like that, but get me in the ballpark, please.
yeah, I'd say on the upper 200s, probably closer to 300,000. And you triggered a little bit of my PTSD there when you said concrete numbers, because boy, are my concrete numbers on a bunch of projects slipping wildly right now.
Understood, sir. I appreciate that. That definitely answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to help.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Chairman Robinson, I will throw it over to you for questions from the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Fellow Board of Commissioners, any comments or questions for staff or the applicant? Okay. I'm going to take that silence as being none. Chairman Simmons, we yield the floor back to you.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the comments, you have heard the questions and answers. Do I have a motion, please?
Chairman, this is Rob. I would like to make a motion to approve application Z 2022-38, a request for rezoning from heavy commercial with conditions to low-density residential with conditions. And the findings are ready to record by staff.
Brandon Penniman. No, I have a motion and I have a second. Do we have any discussion? Mr. Jones, are you still there? I would like to ask you, you heard the conditions were read in. Are you in agreement with those conditions?
I took very thorough and detailed notes and am fully in agreement. So thank you for asking.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for confirming that for us. Okay, Planning and Zoning Board, I have a motion. I have a second. We have had no discussion. I will call the question. Anyone wishing to approve application Z 2022-38, please answer in the affirmative. Mr. Thomas.
Yay.
Ms. Knowles.
Yay.
Mr. Penniman.
Approve.
Mr. Curry.
Yay.
Mr. Payne.
Yay.
Chairman, yay. At this point in time, I will throw the meeting over to Vice Chairman Robinson with the Board of Commissioners. We have a unanimous approval for application Z 2022-38.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. The Board of Commissioners, you heard the recommendation with conditions from the Planning and Zoning Board for Z 2022-38. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Got a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. I'll call the question for approval. I'll start with Commissioner of the First District, Henry Mitchell III. How do you vote, sir?
Approve.
Commissioner Kelly Robinson, aye. From the Second District, vote yes. Commissioner Carthen of the Third District, how do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
And finally, Mr. Angels got it from the Fourth District. How do you vote, ma'am?
Yes.
All right, we got a 4-0 unanimous vote for Z 2022-38. Chairman Simmons, we yield the floor back to you.
Thank you very much, Board of Commissioners. Mr. Jones, we wish you the best going forward on this with these houses. I believe we have nothing else on our agenda, so I will adjourn the Planning and Zoning Board part of this meeting and turn it back over to the Board of Commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners and to the public, if there's nothing else that needs to come before this joint meeting, Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Commissioners on April 5th, 2022, let this meeting stand adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.